My girlfriend yelled in front of everyone, "You could never be a good husband. I'm not going to marry you." I didn't say anything. I just looked at her and walked away. Later that night, I suddenly got a message from her friend. "Do you even know what happened after you left?" I'm 31, and until 3 weeks ago, I thought I had my life figured out. I'd been with Melissa for 3.5 years. We met at a mutual friend's birthday party, hit it off immediately, and within 6 months, we were living together. She was a marketing coordinator at a healthcare nonprofit downtown Minneapolis. I work as an account manager at a manufacturing company. We weren't rich, but we were comfortable. We talked about marriage. We'd even looked at rings together last Christmas. She'd pointed out this elegant sapphire one at a jeweler in Edina, and I'd secretly gone back 2 days later to ask about financing options. The $2,800 a price tag was manageable with my bonus coming up. The night everything blew up was supposed to be celebratory. My cousin Hudson was throwing an engagement party at his lake house north of the Twin Cities. Beautiful place right on Lake Minnetonka, about 40 people there. Melissa had been acting weird all week, distant and snippy, but I chalked it up to work stress. She'd mentioned her boss was being difficult about some campaign deadlines, and she'd been staying late at the office 3 or 4 nights that week. I'd even offered to bring her dinner one of those nights, but she'd said no, that she'd just grab something from the cafeteria downstairs. We arrived around 7. The party was already in full swing. Music playing from outdoor speakers, people clustered in groups around the deck and living room. I was talking with Hudson and a few of my buddies near the kitchen island when Melissa walked up with a drink in her hand. Her face was flushed and I could tell she'd already had at least 2 glasses of wine, maybe 3. "Can we talk?" she said, but her tone wasn't. Quiet or private, it was loud enough that Hudson stopped mid-sentence and looked at her. "Sure, what's up?" I kept my voice calm, trying to steer this towards something normal. "I'm serious. We need to talk about us." I glanced around. People were starting to look. Hudson's fiancée, Grace, was watching from across the room with a concerned expression. "Okay, let's go outside." "No," she cut me off, her voice getting louder. "I'm tired of pretending. You know what? I don't think this is going to work." My stomach dropped. The music suddenly felt too loud. "Melissa, this isn't the place. You could never be a good husband. I'm not going to marry you." The room went completely silent. Every single person was staring at us. I felt my face go hot, my hands clench involuntarily, but I kept my expression as neutral as I could manage. I looked at her for a long moment, trying to figure out if she was drunk or if she actually meant it. Her eyes were hard, almost cruel, like she was daring me to respond. I didn't recognize the person standing in front of me. I didn't say a word. I just turned around, grabbed my jacket from the chair by the door, and walked out the front door. Behind me, I heard someone say, "What just happened?" And then the murmur of voices starting up again, but quieter, gossipy. I drove home in complete silence. No music, no phone calls, just the sound of my own breathing and the hum of the engine. My hands were shaking on the steering wheel. When I got back to our apartment in Uptown, I sat on the couch in the dark for maybe an hour, just staring at nothing. The streetlight outside cast shadows across the wall. I kept replaying the scene in my head, trying to understand what I'd missed, what I'd done wrong. Then my phone buzzed. It was a text from Zoe, one of Melissa's close friends from college. "Do you even know what happened after you left?" I stared at the message for a minute before typing back, "What?" 3 dots appeared immediately. Then, "Can I call you?" "Yeah." My phone rang 5 seconds later. "Hey," Zoe said, and her voice sounded strained, like she'd been crying or was about to. "I don't even know how to say this, but you need to know. After you left, Melissa completely broke down. She started crying and saying she didn't mean it, that she was just scared. But that's not the worst part." "What's the worst part?" My voice sounded hollow, even to my own ears. Zoe hesitated. I could hear party noise in the background, people talking, glasses clinking. "Hudson's brother Camden was there. You know Camden, right?" I did. Camden was Hudson's younger brother, maybe 27, worked in real estate. Always dressed a little too nice and talked a little too loud about his latest deals and his CrossFit routine. "Yeah, I know him." Melissa's been seeing him for at least 2 months. I felt like the floor had disappeared beneath me. The room tilted. "What?" "I didn't know until tonight. I swear I had no idea. After you left, Camden came up to Melissa and tried to comfort her. He put his arm around her, and she leaned into him like it was the most natural thing in the world. Not like a friend comforting a friend, but like they were together. Then I overheard him say, "You said you were going to end it clean. This wasn't the plan." That's when I put it together. I confronted her in the bathroom 20 minutes ago. She admitted everything. I couldn't speak. My brain was trying to process the words, but they felt surreal, like something from a bad movie. She said it started at some networking event Camden was at in September, Zoe continued, filling the silence. They ran into each other, started talking, and then it just happened. That's what she said, like it was some accident, but 2 months isn't an accident. That's a choice she made over and over. Is she still there? I finally managed to ask. Yeah, she's still at the party acting like she's the victim. A few people are comforting her, but honestly, most people look uncomfortable. Grace is pissed. I think she wants Melissa to leave. Thanks for telling me, I said, and my voice cracked a little on the last word. What are you gonna do? I don't know yet. We hung up, and I sat there in the dark for another hour. Then something clicked in my brain, and I started thinking clearly for the first time all night. I opened my laptop and logged into our shared bank account, the one we'd set up for rent and utilities about 2 years ago. We'd both contribute a set amount each month, and it was supposed to make things easier. I started scrolling through the transactions from the past few months. At first, everything looked normal. Rent, electric bill, internet, groceries. Then I noticed charges I didn't recognize. A restaurant called The Butcher and the Boar, an upscale place downtown that I'd never been to, $89 2 months ago. Another one 3 weeks later, $127. Then there was a hotel charge from 4 weeks ago, $145 from a boutique hotel in northeast Minneapolis. Melissa had told me she was at a healthcare conference in Chicago that weekend. I took screenshots of everything, every transaction that didn't make sense. There were 8 in total. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. I just sat there on the couch, laptop open, staring at those bank statements and thinking about every lie she'd told me. Every time she'd said she was working late. Every time she'd been too tired to go out with me on weekends. Every time she'd picked a fight over something trivial, and now I realized it was probably because she was feeling guilty. At around 6 in the morning, I heard the apartment door open. Melissa came in quietly like she was trying not to wake me. She was still in the same dress from the party, and she looked exhausted. I was sitting at the kitchen table with my laptop open and a cup of coffee that had gone cold an hour ago. She froze when she saw me. "We need to talk," I said. She dropped her purse on the counter and crossed her arms defensively. Her makeup was smudged under her eyes, and her hair was messy. "I know I messed up last night. I was drunk and I didn't mean... How long have you been sleeping with Camden?" Her face went pale. All the color drained from her cheeks. "What? Don't lie to me. Zoe told me, and I found the bank statements." I turned the laptop around so she could see the screen with all the highlighted charges. She stared at the charges for a long moment, her mouth opening and closing, like she was trying to find words. Then her shoulders sagged. "It just happened. It wasn't planned." 2 months isn't just happened, Melissa. 2 months is a relationship. 2 months is a choice you made every single day. "I was confused," she said, and her voice cracked. "You and I have been together so long, and I started wondering if this was really what I wanted. Everything felt so routine. Camden made me feel excited again, like things weren't so predictable. So you humiliated me in front of 40 people because you were bored." I could feel the anger rising now, hot and sharp in my chest. "That's not fair. No. What's not fair is that I spent 3.5 years building a life with someone who was shopping for upgrades behind my back. What's not fair is that I was looking at financing options for an engagement ring while you were spending our shared money on hotel rooms with my cousin's brother." She started crying then, but it felt manipulative. The tears felt like a tool she was using. "I'm sorry. I really am. I made a mistake. Can we just talk about this? Can we try to work through it? There's nothing to talk about. I want you out of the apartment by the end of the week. This is my place too. The lease is in my name. You moved in after I'd already been here a year. Check the paperwork if you don't believe me." She stared at me like I'd slapped her. "You're really going to throw me out? You threw us away the second you got into as bed with Camden. I'm just making it official." She left the kitchen without another word. I heard her bedroom door slam shut, and then I heard her crying through the wall. I didn't feel bad. Melissa moved out 4 days later. She tried to take some furniture that I'd bought before we even met, the coffee table, a bookshelf, even the good blender. But I had the receipts saved in a folder on my computer, and she backed down. The whole process was cold and mechanical. We barely spoke except for logistics. Her parents came with a U-Haul on Saturday morning. Her dad wouldn't look at me, and her mom gave me this pitying look like I was the one who'd messed up. I didn't bother explaining anything to them. Camden, on the other hand, tried to reach out. He sent me a long text message 2 days after Melissa moved out, apologizing, saying he never meant for things to go this far, and that he respected me too much to let this ruin my relationship with Hudson. The text was 5 paragraphs long, full, of phrases like, "I take full responsibility," and "I hope we can move past this eventually." I didn't respond. I deleted it and blocked his number. 2 days later, Hudson called me. "I heard what happened," he said. "Camden told me his side, but I wanted to hear yours." I gave him the full story, every detail, the public humiliation, the affair, the bank statements, the hotel charges, the lies. Hudson listened without interrupting. Hudson was quiet for a long time after I finished. Then he said, "I'm sorry, man. I had no idea. Camden's my brother, but what he did was beyond messed up. I'm not making excuses for him. I appreciate that. For what it's worth, Grace already uninvited Melissa from the wedding. She was supposed to be a bridesmaid, and I'm keeping Camden on a very short leash. He's not in the wedding party anymore either. Grace wanted him completely uninvited, but he's still my brother, so he can come to the ceremony, and that's it. No reception." That gave me some small satisfaction, but it didn't fix the betrayal. Nothing could fix that. About 2 weeks after Melissa moved out, I got a message from her on Instagram. It was long and rambling, basically saying she'd made the biggest mistake of her life and wanted to meet up to talk. She said Camden had turned out to be different than she thought and that she realized I was the one she actually wanted to be with. She said she'd been foolish and impulsive and that what we had was real. I didn't even open the message fully. I just blocked her on Instagram, Facebook, and Gmail for good measure. But here's where it gets interesting. A mutual friend, Owen, reached out to me a few days ago and told me the real reason Melissa was trying to come back. Apparently, Camden had been seeing someone else the entire time he was with Melissa, some woman from his real estate office named Victoria. When Melissa found out, she saw texts on his phone. She confronted him, and he basically told her she was just a fling. He said he never intended for it to be serious, that it was just fun, and that Victoria was his actual girlfriend. Melissa was devastated. Owen said she showed up at his apartment at 10 at night crying, asking him what she should do. And then to make things worse, she got fired from her job the same week. She'd been showing up late repeatedly, missing deadlines, and she'd gotten into a screaming argument with her boss about some campaign analytics mistake. Her boss had apparently been lenient for weeks, but the argument was the final straw. Owen said she'd been calling around to mutual friends, trying to get someone to convince me to take her back. No one would help her. A few people told her explicitly that what she did was unforgivable. The irony wasn't lost on me. While I was planning our future, she was having an affair with someone who was also cheating on her. Camden had played both of us, but I was the only one smart enough to walk away when I found out. It's been 3 weeks since that night at Hudson's Lake House. I'm still processing everything, but honestly, I feel lighter. The apartment is quieter, sure, but it's mine again. I rearranged the furniture, got rid of anything that reminded me of her, threw out pictures, donated some books she'd left behind, even replaced the sheets on the bed. I started going to the gym in the mornings before work, and I've been reading more. Little things that make me feel like I'm reclaiming my life. My 401k contributions are maxed out now, and I've been putting extra money toward the down payment fund for a house, something that's just mine. The manufacturing company has been talking about promoting me to senior account manager, and I'm finally in the right headspace to focus on that opportunity. Hudson and I are still close. His wedding is in 2 months, and I'm still invited. I'm even back in the wedding party as a groomsman. Camden won't be at the reception. Hudson held firm on that, despite pressure from his parents who thought the family should present a united front. Grace had been adamant about it, and Hudson backed her up completely. Apparently, Camden and Melissa tried to make things work for about a week after she found out about Victoria, but that imploded fast. Camden blocked her number, and she tried showing up at his condo once. He threatened to call the cops if she didn't leave. The guy who had seemed so charming and confident at family gatherings turned out to be exactly what you'd expect. A coward who couldn't handle the consequences of his actions. Last I heard, she moved back in with her parents in Stillwater, about 40 minutes outside the Twin Cities. She's unemployed and apparently spending most of her time in her childhood bedroom. Zoe told me she's been posting vague, sad quotes on social media, the kind that are clearly about me, but never mention me by name. Things like, sometimes the person you'd take a bullet for is the one pulling the trigger, and I lost myself trying to find someone who was never lost. I haven't heard from her directly since I blocked her on everything. Zoe checks in on me sometimes, which is nice. She feels guilty for not noticing the affair sooner, but I told her it's not her fault. Melissa was careful. She covered her tracks well enough that even her closest friends didn't see it coming. If Zoe had known, she would have told me immediately. I'm sure of that. I'm not dating anyone right now. I'm not ready, but I'm also not bitter. I'm just relieved. Relieved I found out before I actually married her. Relieved I didn't waste another 3.5 years. Relieved I didn't propose with that sapphire ring and then discover all of this a year into a marriage. Relieved I walked away when I did with my dignity intact. The ring situation still amazes me when I think about it. I had been planning to propose this Christmas. I'd already started saving extra money each month. Had even talked to my boss about picking up some overtime too. Make sure I could afford the ring she wanted without going into debt. Meanwhile, she was planning to break up with me so she could be with Camden. The timing of everything feels like some kind of cosmic intervention. My coworkers have been supportive too. A couple of the guys have asked me if I want to grab beers after work, and one of them introduced me to his wife's single sister at a company barbecue last week. I wasn't ready for anything serious, but it was nice to remember that there are decent people out there. People who don't lie and cheat and humiliate their partners in public. Sometimes I think about that moment at the party when she yelled at me in front of everyone. At the time, it felt like the worst moment of my life. The humiliation was so complete, so unexpected. But now I realize it was a gift. She showed me exactly who she was, and I got to walk away before I was legally or financially tied to her forever. Before we had kids together, before I bought a house with her, name on it. The silence I chose that night, not responding, not defending myself, just walking away, turned out to be the most powerful thing I could have done. It preserved my dignity while exposing her complete lack of it. Everyone at that party saw what happened, and every single person has taken my side since then. For everyone asking about the ring, I never bought it. I was planning to propose this Christmas, but obviously that's not happening now. Instead, I'm using that money as part of my house down payment. A fresh start in a place that's completely mine, with no shared memories or compromises. I dodged a bullet, and I know it.